Hey everybody, welcome to K Factor. I'm Ramy Sedra, your host, and I'm super excited. We've got a great guest tonight from Jeramy Croell. Jeremy, thank you for joining us.
No problem. No problem. Glad to be here.
Jeremy, I always love to start with a little bit about the guest. So maybe you could tell folks a little bit about you and how long you've been in the ready mix business.
Well, our company itself has been around since 1968, and my grandfather and his dad started the first plant, and my dad was involved in the business from very young, so I kind of always grew up a part of it. In high school, I was running loader and filling bins and shipping trucks out, and I grew up out in Sundance, Wyoming. Went to college, University of Wyoming, and when I was done, they shipped me off to Iowa, and I was back working in the ready mix industry. So that was 2006. So I've been 18 years here now, doing it full time, and I got a wife and two young girls that keep me chasing them to events. And in our free time, we like to do a little traveling. We try and do a lot of hiking, knocking out the national parks. That's kind of our thing we like to do.
Well, have you guys done much traveling this year?
It was my wife and my 10th anniversary, and we did a little cruise in the Mediterranean in May. That was really nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's
amazing. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what do you love about the ready mix business?
Well, I guess it's not the same thing every day, and you probably hear that a lot, but I like being able to drive over here, and we poured that. We drive over here, and my wife gets sick of it. Everywhere we go, I said, "Oh, there's a ready mix plant over there. Oh, there's a ready mix plant over there." And just the sense of being able to, at the end of the day, this is what we got done. There's a lot of careers that you choose where, what'd you get done today? And I don't know. And here we got tangible proof. We're building the communities around us. We have a part in everything that goes up. So
anything that drives you crazy or that you don't like so much?
For just taking my own experiences in our company, we've grown very fast here and expanded very fast. And we had a lot of processes that were really good, when we were the 5-10 plant company. And the last 10 years, we've grown a lot in a hurry. And those processes that were okay when you're that small are no longer okay. Keeping track of everything. Where's all this data coming from? How do you get that? Where it was manual entry was okay when you're small.
Right.
You either have to hire a whole bunch more people or figure out a more efficient way to do things. And so that's been a big challenge for us. And just finding qualified employees in this line of business. There's not a whole lot of experienced higher up people out there to bring in. Not many people have experience with concrete, or running a plant.
Right.
So that's tough. So we've started our own training program, a manager university, and just trying to bring people up from within and do the training ourselves.
Well, now you guys have grown quite a bit as a business over the years.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that trajectory looked like. I mean, where did you guys come from?
Yeah.
Where are you now in terms of how much growth there's been in the business?
Yeah. In 1968, we started in the little town of Lawler, Iowa, a town of 500 people. And like I said, my grandpa and his dad built the first plant from scratch and hauled concrete and worked on trucks all night. And we just slowly kept expanding. And about 95, we moved out to Wyoming and South Dakota. And from there, it's just kind of ballooned to 11 states, over 100 ready mix plants, about 60 some aggregate sites. We do mainline concrete paving in Iowa, Minnesota, and we do asphalt paving in Wyoming, and we got 4 or 5 asphalt plants. But yeah, and I would say the last 10, 15 years, especially, it's really sped up and grown. So,
And I guess with that kind of a growth, the processes that you had at the beginning when you were 4 or 5 plants,
yep.
and now at 100 or more than 100, it's not the same. Can you talk a little bit about like what are those challenges, right? Like what are really the big differences between running a 4 or 5 plant business and running 100+ plant business?
Yeah.
And what's the big difference in that in your mind?
When you have 4 or 5 plants, it's really easy to make it to all of them every week and keep a close eye on stuff. And when you get this big, you can't be everywhere at once. You gotta find people you trust, and at the same time, you can talk to these people every day, but you need some more numbers to show what is happening, so you can validate in every area. And that's a process when you don't know how to get those. One thing our vice president now, Harold Busta, started before I was on board, and I help him with it now, is every spring, pretty much the entire month of February, we go and we sit down with every single plant manager in the company and go through their financials, set goals, run through all the numbers, and just review how the last year went and where we think the next year is going. And it's one thing to go through financials and show them the bottom line, but the big questions are, okay, how did we get here? And how do we improve? Digging deeper below the surface. And that's something that I've tried to develop more and try to find a way to show them, like, hey, this is what's getting you here. This, if we improve this, that would help here. And it's one thing to tell them, I think this is how we can improve. But right. If you have actual data to show them, like, okay, we're making progress, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. They won't buy in unless they have the actual numbers. It's not just a guessing game.
Right. Right. Jeramy, if you were giving yourself advice, right, or advice to your, to your family members or the management team, back when you were 5 plants, mm-hmm. would you have suggested they do anything different back then when they were small and they could go around to every?
I would take it, and every system we come up with, every process we come up with, try to automate as much of it as possible. Don't plan for what you have now. Plan for where you want to get to. The manual data entry that we've done in the past is just a killer. Like it adds so much more work when you expand. That's one thing we needed to change.
Well, you mentioned buy-in, and I wonder, business such as yours, you're acquiring, you're growing into new states, you're changing processes and technologies. Like there's a ton of change management involved in all of that. Tell me a little bit about how you guys are living all of that change management.
When you acquire a new company, they might have completely different processes, and it's kind of baby steps. You got to adapt right. This. There's things that we can work with. There's things that you're going to have to change right away. And, we know we aren't perfect, and some of these places might be doing something better than the way we did it. So we always go in open-minded, like, how do you do it now? Maybe we can learn something here and take from that. So right. That's kind of how we go about that.
And, when you're establishing a new process, do you feel like there's a lot of resistance to change by, the folks in the organization?
100%. Change is scary for everybody. In my mind, if you aren't changing and adapting, you're going backwards. And the people that work for me, they'll tell you straight up, my biggest pet peeve is when I ask you why we do something this way, your only answer better not be, well, that's how we've always done it. You've got to have reasons, like, why do we do it this way? And just trying to encourage everybody to look at your own processes, step back. Does it make sense to do it this way? Is there a better way to do it?
I wonder, like as some of the veterans are retiring, right? And kind of their time in the industry is kind of coming up. I often hear from producers that, hey, it's time to recruit some fresh blood, new folks, either people that are coming out of school or people, that are coming from other industries related.
Yep.
Do you find that having more modern technology helps you to recruit that talent, or it doesn't really play a role?
I think where in the past you got by if just running push buttons and didn't have to do any of that, that attracted the older generation. I think the younger generation wants to work in a nice, clean facility. They're used to having computers in every part of their life. They have one in their pocket, so it's no big deal to them. They'd much rather input an order into a computer than have to read off a recipe on a sheet of paper and manually throw it in the truck. So I think it really helps to recruit that new generation.
Jeramy, I guess one of the things for our viewers, they don't know is you partnered with C60, quite some time ago. You partnered with us relatively early in our journey. I'm curious, what initially caught your eye, especially that early, right, to want to partner with us?
Well, like I said, I was looking for data to prove the numbers and prove the ways to improve these plants. And believe it or not, when I decided to get into the concrete industry, it wasn't because I wanted to sit in an office and look at numbers all day. I wanted to be out in the field. I want to be in a truck. I want to be batching concrete, be out talking to these guys. As my role grew, I found myself more and more in the office, and then I'm trying to find these numbers myself, and I don't want to do that. So that was one of my goals, was building dashboards, and you guys came along at the perfect time. Most of the numbers I was looking for, you guys were in the process of developing these dashboards. And in my mind, man, I don't have to go look for all this stuff. I can be out in the field and here's a dashboard. Like, all the information's there for me. I can go and look at all my mix designs. How are our design yields? Where are they at right now? I don't have to manually go into every mix design and pull that up. I have my customer, we go through customer pricing every year, and yeah, he's a really good customer and he dumps them off fast. Now I have a dashboard where I can say, okay, who's our best customers? We got the actual numbers to back it up. There's more and more to that. Our batch accuracy is a huge one. We had been developing our own batch accuracy report, but being able to catch plants that aren't batching accurately saves you so much money, just batching at 100%. And that's been a huge help, not having to go manually check each plant. Go out there in the field and watch them batch and make sure they're hitting their tolerances. And that's what brought me in, is just having it. You guys had it already in the process of being developed. I didn't have to go figure out how to get all these numbers. You guys put it all together, and it helps me because I can be out in the field where I want to be and not developing these reports.
So if I'm hearing you, it's, you're focusing on the business.
Yes.
And, you're leveraging, C60 to basically heavy lifting of like bringing in all the data and just, computing it and all of that stuff. And that adds value to you. How were you doing it before? Because let's face it, you're running a big business. It's far from being an unsophisticated business, right? So why was that painful?
Well, there's a lot of things. Like, to tell how a plant was batching, you pretty much had to rely on the managers to say, hey, I got an issue over here. And a lot of times nothing was immediate. It slowly grew into an issue. Right. So our batch tolerances, that you'd have to go to the plant itself and watch it. And the customer pricing, it was just, hey, how are these guys to work with? How do they do? And we had no system for that. Design yields relied on somebody going through each plant's mix designs one by one and calculating it themselves. So obviously that doesn't get it done as much as it needs to. So this is a quick way to fix issues. And then the fact that you can go and see your biggest issues right on the home screen and, okay, this is where I need to focus today.
Now, you said something interesting. So you kind of like a design yield or a batching accuracy. I mean, we get this from producers a lot, right? Like everybody's got a batch report, right? Now, what's the difference between, going through like an ERP system batch report versus, how you're doing it now? Like what, because you had that before, right? And
I
so
did.
what's the difference?
The difference is I had a whole lot of percentages that were in tolerance. That's what we developed. We left ad mixes off because we figured, these ad mixes are calibrated. We aren't going to have those in there. I didn't know how big of an issue our ad mixes being out of tolerance were going to be until I started getting your report and seeing how many places did actually have issues with it. So that was a big eye opener to me, something we weren't tracking and we missed out on. But
okay, so it's a more granular view, but it's also you're seeing kind of all of your plants in kind of one go.
Yeah.
So you can basically pinpoint where the issues are.
Yes, and in yours it pinpoints the problem material by how much it's costing us. In the one that we had developed, I just know that such and such plant was out of tolerance 3 times. Well, how much was it? So,
when we first met, I remember you guys talking about a transformation program, right? And talking about really wanting to transform the business. If you were coaching, other producers in the industry, right, about transforming their business, what would be like the top 3 things that you would coach them on and say, look, folks, our industry, for us to be kind of the next generation producers, right? Here's the things that we need to prioritize.
Well, for one, just automating as much as you can and making it easier on them to find this information. No one wants to be manually looking up data and moving it around and manipulating it every day. So the more you can automate and make those people's jobs easier, the better off you'll be. If you ask producers their biggest issue, I'd say 95% of them is going to be finding help. So what are you doing to make that help's position easier and more attractive? And that's the biggest thing for us. And
one of the common themes that we certainly hear in the industry is about, I've got reports, out of my different systems. I've got reports out of my different ERP systems, and I'm implementing a new version of a new ERP system. I've got all the data that I need. Now, you've been in that world, right? And now you're kind of living a different reality. What would you say to a producer in terms of the difference between kind of running reporting and having analytics, right? Are they really kind of the same thing, or are they different?
Running reports is great. One of the big issues a report is great if you have somebody looking at it. And if you have 100 different reports coming out every week, is anybody looking at all of them? And an analytics program that points you right to your issues, points you right to, hey, this needs fixed, this is your biggest issue, saves you so much time of going through all these reports, finding, because what you're trying to do is find what the biggest issue is. And if you don't have to look through all these reports to find your biggest issue and it's right there on a dashboard, saves you a ton of time.
Right. So again, I guess it comes back to, I'm hearing kind of a recurring theme from you, which is like, hey, let's let the technology help us do our
Yeah.
job,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about what I'm not hearing you say, and kind of keep me honest. What I'm not hearing you say is, hey, the technology is doing the job for us. It's really about like almost making you bionic, right? Is to say, hey,
Yeah. That.
how can I go faster,
Mm-hmm.
or just focus on the stuff that really matters?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
100%. A lot of people are scared of technology and AI replacing their jobs, and that's not what this about. This is about. This is making us more efficient, making us able to see the whole picture, and still be able to get out and manage things in the field. Is the way I see it.
As we've kind of progressed in our journey, I'm always curious, you know, what what keeps you guys sticking around? What do we do that we should continue to do to keep making producers like yourselves and happy with the service and the experience that they're getting from C60?
Just the amount of time you guys spend following up, seeing what do you think of this? Do you like this? What more do you want? The way you listen, and not just listen but hear what we want to see and tailor make it for us is huge. You don't get that with a lot of companies. Seems like a lot of them, this is what you get, here it is. But you guys are constantly looking to improve and develop more. And yeah, I look forward to see where it goes.
Awesome, awesome. Um, Jeramy, and any parting thoughts? I've bombarded you with like hundreds of questions. Um, Anything you'd like to share with us, or the industry that we haven't talked about?
No, I think we covered it all. Every single thing.
No,
No.
no, we haven't talked about one thing, is getting your uncle on the show.
I will say I appreciate you doing the podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I wish I've for a long time I wish there was something in the ready mix field I could go to and listen to and keep up on. So I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you for the encouragement. I mean, we're really trying to create a little bit of I guess, a sense of community,
Mm-hmm.
and try to demystify what we do. Because I'll be honest, when I talk to my friends about, we do analytics in
Yeah.
concrete, for them it sounds like voodoo.
Yeah.
And the reality is, we're hoping that it's practical and pragmatic for you guys, right? To actually use the data the way you'd basically described it.
Mm-hmm.
And really appreciate you coming on and sharing so that others could learn and benefit from your experience. So really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Well, folks, you heard it here. Give us a like, a follow, share it with other friends in the industry. But we really appreciate you watching. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
Okay.